just want to welcome everyone here. Thank you for coming. This is another chat event. Our whole goal as chat, what chat stands for is Community Health Advocate Trainers, right? So our whole aim is to empower the community to be the CEO of their own bodies, right? So we don't necessarily, yes, we need the doctors and we need all these professionals to help us, but there are things that we could educate ourselves on so that we could take care of our own bodies. Here's some statistics. There's a community health needs assessment that they do every year, well, every few years. And one of the top issues in this area, access to health care, cancer, diabetes, nutrition, right? Heart disease, and mental health / substance abuse. These are some of the issues that people are struggling with in this area, and it is our goal to make an impact with that, right? So if you know anyone that's struggling with these things, send them to our events, right? And we could give them some little simple remedies, little things that they could do to help. Chef Queen is going to be leading out today. She is a certified executive chef, right? So she is professional, right? And she's good at this, and we love her presentations. And she has, what, over 41 years?
44 years.
44 years.
Next year, 45.
All right, so.
If I make it that far.
Wonderful. So without any delay, I turn it over to Chef Queen.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. So good to see all your sunshiny faces today. Kitchen remedies is our today's focus, garden remedies. And I call it Nature's Grocery Store or God's Pharmacy, F-A-R-M, pharmacy, right? And because the life of the blood, the life of the flesh is in the blood. So when we keep our blood strong and pure and clean and healthy, we typically tend to be healthy. And as you see behind me, some of the books that I brought, natural remedy books, okay, the Amish book. This one over here is the Lost Book of Herbal Remedies, which is a great book. My teacher, I call her my teacher, is and has been for many years this woman right here. She wrote 2 books in the last couple of years. One is called Self-Heal by Design. Our bodies are made to heal themselves, okay? And if we treat our bodies the right way and give ourselves the right things and eat the right things and do the right thing, we will have vitality and longevity. And this one here is also by her. It's called Sustain Me, okay? And that's an acronym for the 9 foundational pillars for good health. And her name's Barbara O'Neill, and she's been my teacher for many, many years, and I love her right to pieces, and I hope that you look her up on YouTube. Also, some of these other books you'll see, The Body's Many Cries for Water, Water and Salt. Your body's an electric machine. It needs water and it needs salt. In electrolytes, you know, people talk about electrolytes, right? That's what keeps the system firing, okay? And at our last event that we did, I did God's Gatorade. We call it homemade Gatorade. And it contained all of the things that would be in electrolyte solution that could keep you alive, sustain you for many, many, many days, weeks, or whatever. We have to put the right things into our bodies. If you look at a bottle of Gatorade that you buy over the counter in the market, it has all sorts of weird ingredients that you can't even pronounce. You have no idea what it is. And so you can make a picture of, like today I'm offering fresh ginger, which I grate. I grate the ginger. I make that tea or extract, whatever you want to call it, every week. And it will last actually at least a month in the fridge. So you can make a batch and it'll last a long time. And today I added fresh lime juice to make like the limeade, lemonade kind of idea. And a little bit of honey. And you can add like a little club soda if you want it like to be a little light and bubbly, or you can just do it straight still, okay? Over here, I have Back to Eden. Back to Eden is a book by Dr. Jethro Kloss, and he was one of the fundamental people who actually started, you know, he was an amazing man that he taught me a lot through this book. There's 10 pages in there on just cayenne pepper. And cayenne pepper, we're going to be covering that in a few minutes, is a blood mover. So if you're having problems with sluggish blood, thick blood, all that kind of thing, you know, the life is in the blood. There's a lot of other little books here. The Coconut Oil Miracle. You know, coconut oil got a little bit of a bad rep a few years ago because they, quote unquote, called it a saturated fat. But it's a different type of saturated fat than what you find in animal products. And keep in mind that cholesterol, your body needs cholesterol, but the only source of cholesterol other than the sun, which hits your skin and turns vitamin D in your body into cholesterol, which every cell in your body requires cholesterol to function. Your brain is, what, 75% fat? They call you a fathead, that's a good thing, maybe. And so, yeah, cholesterol is important. You know, if you're taking cholesterol medications, I would urge you to look into alternative methods and watch your diet. But in the plant kingdom, there's no cholesterol. It's only in the animal kingdom, all right? So Jethro Kloss, Back to Eden, the herb books, Curing with Cayenne. You would be amazed at some of these things that the good Lord put on this earth for our health and nutrition. And so that, and then I'm a big firm advocate of castor oil, so we'll be talking about that today. So that's the Castor Oil Handbook. And so I mentioned some of those books. The life is in the blood. The vital force to rebuild your blood and restore your health, and it's not found in a bottle at the drugstore, okay? It can be as simple as organic food grown in your own garden or purchased at the store, and I emphasize organic because if it's not organic, it's been sprayed with poisonous pesticides and chemicals and toxic poisons that you're ingesting into your body. And your body doesn't know how to deal with that. God created the liver, and the liver is made to filter out impurities, but it never, like, you know, wasn't designed to filter out synthetic man-made poisons. So I just want to make that point. Learn how to aid your body in the recovery process. Our bodies are under daily attack, okay? Between the environmental toxins and poisons that we're ingesting and the foods that we eat. Look at the labels. Start being a label reader, okay? There are 10,000 additives that are allowed in the United States that's not allowed in other countries. 10,000! And let me tell you, it takes an act of Congress to get them to change anything, okay? So be careful because everything that we do, it becomes a part of us. I want to mention that I am not a medical professional. I'm a professional chef, have been a chef for 44 years, and I am a humble organic gardener. And, you know, there's something healing about going out and digging in the dirt. They've actually proved scientifically that the bacteria that you're breathing in is actually like an antibiotic. Not to mention how good it makes you feel. Okay, so this presentation today is not intended like as medical advice, but these are gentle, time-proven methodologies and simple home remedies that can help you to heal and to be strengthened in your body, okay? These are herbal, plant-based, alternative healing modalities that will assist you in your everyday life. Please try to do organic, as I mentioned, and always, keep in mind that anything that you put on your body is absorbed into your bloodstream within 28 seconds. So I do want to mention that the feet, because we'll be doing a lot with the feet, the largest pores in the body is on the feet, underneath, and so when you're walking out, in the grass, because I'm big into grounding and earthing and all that kind of stuff, right? Oh, I went out this morning and the dew was still on the roses, and that's when you want to go out and walk barefoot. It's early in the morning, before 9 a.m., while the dew is still out on the grass. Even better if you walk after a thunder and lightning storm in the middle of the night, because that lightning action that hits the ground, your body absorbs electrons. You're an electric machine, okay? And your body will absorb those things, and you know how you have static electricity, you go and you touch the refrigerator, right? If you're grounding, that's not gonna happen. And you can also get like a grounding mat, which plugs into your outlet, and it doesn't plug into the electrical. It just plugs into the grounding post in the bottom of your, 3-prong electrical outfit there. And it actually is similar to walking barefoot out, And that same thing, you can benefit from walking in the sand at the beach. You know how good you feel after you get back from walking on the beach. And so, yeah, just keep that in mind. And the good book says that there's a provision made for both animals and insects, birds, fish, and humans. Sustenance from the earth, but it must be taken care of. It must be dressed and maintained, replenished and respected. So we need to assist nature in the curative process, both within us and without us. This body regenerates itself. Your cells and your organs reproduce if it's given the right conditions. So I say that because, what you put on the outside of your body. Now, be looking at this stuff, and I'm not going to mention any names now, so I don't want to get in trouble. But if you're buying stuff at the drugstore, why not instead invest in a bottle of good castor oil? Castor oil is a miraculous healer, moisturizer, strengthener. I mean, I could go on and on about castor oil.
Yes.
And it is one of the best things on the planet. And I happen to be fortunate enough to have some homemade Jamaican castor oil. And we're going to pass this around so that you can smell it. And you see how viscous it is? It even can be even thicker than this. But it absorbs and it adsorbs, actually, and it goes through all 5 layers of the epidermis. So it goes into your body and it targets any areas, like my friend over there, my team member, we talked about, she has some strictures, right?
Bone spurs.
Bone spurs, pardon me. We're going to talk about castor oil coming up, and I have a couple of testimonies, personal testimonies of this stuff, what it has done for me personally, that I was like, okay, that was it for me. When it worked for me, I'm like, okay. So you're going to pass that around so people can smell it. Okay, that's your, homemade stuff. They heat the castor seeds from the castor plant, and then they press, the oil out. So stop using the creams and lotions from over-the-counter concoctions with ingredients you can't pronounce or spell. You have no idea what they are or what they do. If your grandmother didn't use it, you shouldn't be using it, okay? And simple, clean, organic ingredients will have a reflection on your overall health, all right? So our first demo that we're going to work on here is onion syrup. And so I'm going to ask my trusty assistant to come up here. And this is Lisa. Lisa's going to work with this nice sharp little knife, okay? And she's going to slice up. Now, I made some in advance. I made this yesterday. This is onion syrup. and I'll ask another assistant to come over and help pass this out. You're gonna have a taste of the onion syrup, and I'm gonna talk to you about the benefits of this onion syrup in a minute. So all you need is a glass jar, and always, everyone remember this, in your kitchen, never use a plastic bag, plastic wrap, or whatever, to wrap up the onion that you've cut, because it absorbs the micro nanoparticles that's in the plastic, and then you're eating that, okay? And we're getting enough of that stuff anyway, so you put it, what I do is after I cut it, I just put it in a jar in the refrigerator, and it stays perfectly. Amazing thing about onion is it's a drawer, so it draws things out of the atmosphere. If you had the flu, a bad cold, cough, whatever, and you were like down for the count, you're in bed, you can't do anything. You take a skewer, you take your onion, you put the onion on a skewer. You can peel this first, okay? And put it on a skewer right next to your bed where you're sleeping. It will absorb the germs and bacteria in the air. And sometimes that onion can be black the next day from all this stuff, toxins in the air. And especially if you're coughing and spewing and all that stuff, okay? So that's a little tidbit of information I wanted to bring out. You can also, with this, you can use, in this one, I put some garlic. I'm from Maine, by the way.
I was gonna say, what'd you say?
Okay, you can put some garlic in there, in the jar. Don't get the pocket car in the barn, all right? But you can put garlic or ginger in there, which will just intensify the effect. You could even put turmeric. Now, I did bring a couple of these little shots. You ever seen those little shots in the grocery store? They're $5. $5 a piece. So I just take my little handy dandy juicer, and I take the fresh ginger. You see how it comes to the bottom there, right? And I take turmeric, which is right here, and I take the ginger, and I put it through the juicer with pineapple, like fresh pineapple, an orange or two, depends on how much you're making, all right? There's no real recipe. To your liking, to your, desire. I put an apple in here and a lemon. So all those things are astringent, okay? The citrus, we'll say. And then I put it through the juicer, and instead of paying $5 for one of these, I just make like 30 of them at a time, and I put them in the freezer. And when you do take these shots, there's an immune booster. I call it immunity, okay? But it's an immune booster, and you would do it like, say, for a week and then take a week off. It wouldn't be something I would do every single day, okay? Because while it kills bacteria, it can also kill some of the good bacteria. So, but the idea is to enhance the immune system and to bring healing to the blood, and the life is in the blood, right? So with the onion syrup, after you would make this, you would essentially leave it overnight on the counter for 24 hours, okay? And then you would strain it the next day. And then you can put this in your refrigerator, and anytime your grandchildren come over, they're coughing and hacking and spewing or whatever, or your husband or your wife or whoever's got a cold, you got a cold, you use this, and it's actually very sweet, believe it or not. From the onion and garlic and ginger, you think, but the honey that you're putting in there, and she's going to demo that, so she's already showing. Okay, she's going to bring some spoons around so you can taste that, okay? And it will actually help any kind of upper respiratory problems that you might have, okay? So you can also add, if you're brave and smart, add a little cayenne pepper for additional blood circulation through the body. So it benefits the body, the lungs, and it pulls out mucus. You know how you go, all that stuff, right? A lot of people with dairy, that happens with dairy. So, you know, try to do more of the plant-based milks if you're having that kind of problem, you know. And for children, children can also use this. With children, you would use 1/4 teaspoon. That's not very much, right? And for an adult, you'd use a teaspoon. 3-4 times a day. We are talking about the humble onion, okay? And it makes you cry for a reason, because it activates the mucous membranes in your upper respiratory, your olfactory system. You know, make this syrup and it'll stay indefinitely in your refrigerator. So this one woman said she had it for like 10 years in her fridge. And she just keep adding the onion, keep adding the more honey and whatever. Honey, by the way, we're going to get to that here in a minute, is a marvel from God. It is a marvel, okay? And the bees are in trouble. So I'm always asking at church to pray for the bees. Because, you know, they if we lose the bees, we're done, okay? There's no more us. It's us and them or nothing, all right? So bacteria, the fascinating thing about honey is that bacteria will not grow in honey. So it's antibacterial. They have found in like King Tut's tomb, King Tutankhamun's tomb, honey. They used to even take the Egyptian kings and stuff, and once they, you know, mummified them, they covered them in honey to preserve them. All right. It is a natural sedative. It has been already digested by the bees. A teaspoon of honey is enough to sustain human life for 24 hours. It will sustain your life for 24 hours. There's a little remedy for cataracts. You know, a lot of people have cataracts, right? And there's a few different remedies that we're going to talk about today. One is a drop of honey in the eye, a little drop of honey in the eye at night, go to sleep. In the morning, a drop of lemon juice. Now it sounds like, oh, I got the lemon juice in my... Well, you would rather have like an operation or whatever, but it's a natural remedy. And it breaks down all those crystalline, things on the retina of the eye, the lens, and all that. So it really does work. It dissolves cataracts. If you're going to buy honey, try to buy local. It really helps with, asthma and all that stuff. And always try to get it in glass. You'll see these are all in glass. If it's in plastic, it will absorb some of the micro nano particles that's in the plastic. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I did not mention about Manuka honey. This one container of Manuka honey costs about $90. It is the most healing thing on the planet. You can get varying degrees of strength. Okay, this one is one of the highest MGL at 1125, but you can get them, a lot less money. But it's a monofloral honey that is from New Zealand primarily, is where they generally have this type of honey, and it is like a doctor in itself. It's like a first aid kit itself. Okay. So this one is much sweeter. Again, this is organic. This one's organic. Now, honey heals wounds very fast, okay? Especially good is that, I said, that Manuka honey. While it's expensive, it has amazing healing properties internally and externally, and it's antibacterial, as I mentioned before. Raw honey has high amounts of pollen, so you'll see in the store raw honey compared to, whatever. And it has nutritional compounds, and it's the only food on the planet that's produced exclusively by insects. Okay? The only food known to sustain life in and of itself. Okay? 1 teaspoon, I said, will sustain life for 24 hours, and it has no expiration date. It was found over 3,000 years ago in these tombs and still viable. And nothing can grow in it, nothing. No viruses, none of that stuff. And, you know, some interesting little tidbits about bees, because I love the bees, and my daughter and her husband just became beekeepers last weekend. They got their bees. Oh, they're so excited. And I call them my grandbabies. But they never sleep. They never sleep, and they live on average of 40 days. They go to like 10,000 flowers during that 40 days, and they produce 1 teaspoon of honey in their whole lifetime, which is an incredible thing. A couple things, if you're going to be dealing with honey, say you're making your tea, and you want honey, let the tea cool down a little bit, because you're not supposed to put honey into boiling water. It destroys some of the healing propensities that's in the honey. So always use a wooden spoon. Never use a metal spoon with honey, because it destroys some of the enzymes that's in the honey, the healing properties. Okay, so every once in a while you're going to shake this, right? So when you make this, you see how it's thick, it's not moving, it's just sticky, ooey gooey. Usually by the end of this presentation, this will already be making liquid. Okay, let's see. Honey is, like I said, a natural sedative. It's already been digested by the bees. And at night, I have what I call my little sleepy time tea party. So I have a cup of either chamomile or sleepy time tea with a little bit of honey in it. And within an hour, I'm gone. I'm done for. And so it's a very relaxing sleep sedative, I guess you might say. And I beg of you, please, do not spray poisonous chemicals and toxic poisons on your weeds and plants. Everybody goes to the store and gets a Roundup. It kills everything. You know what it kills? It kills not just the weeds. It kills every living thing that it touches. And when you go out and you eat your food that's been sprayed with poisons, you're also eating those poisons, okay? And so a nice little home remedy for the weeds and plants is just vinegar spray. And if it's not near food, vinegar and salt. Like say it's out in the yard, you spray in the, I don't know, whatever, weeds around the, you know, edges or whatever. Vinegar spray with some water and salt. If you're doing it in the garden, you can use the vinegar, but you don't want the salt. What I use in my kitchen, this is from my kitchen, for cleaning. I used to have so many different chemicals under my sink. Oh my goodness. Now, vinegar and baking soda. That's it. That's all you need. And it will clean, disinfect, deodorize. It'll make silver polish. It will clean your stainless steel sink. It will clean your windows, all that stuff. It's amazing. And I want to mention to you about a very important note here is about mold. You know how people say, oh, I have mold in my basement, I have mold, black mold, blah. Black mold's like the worst, okay? Anything moldy, if you have like a lemon in your fruit basket, don't touch it. Mold can infiltrate your body through the pores of your skin, any open orifice, your mouth, your ears, your nose, your eyes. Mold, they're spores. They float around. You can't even see them, okay? If you've got a bad piece of fruit, you get yourself a pair of long tongs and you go and get it and throw it in the trash and then clean whatever is there and rinse it. I clean all my fruit that I buy from the grocery store and vegetables in the sink with a little baking soda. You can put vinegar, but baking soda and water, like a tablespoon for a basin, right? Something like that. And then rinse it afterwards, you know. Very alkaline. It will remove all the residue and sludge from the outside of, you don't know what people have done to your food before you get it. Oh, I could tell you some horror stories, okay? But I will keep that to myself for now. And so, honey, I know I was on that. I just wanted to mention that the queen bee produces 1,500 eggs a day in the busy season of the year. And I want to make sure I mentioned that because I think that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, the vinegar and salt will kill the weeds. No salt in the garden. With your garden, because you know everyone who knows me here knows I have 7 gardens, and that's like my thing. I love playing in the dirt, I guess. And make sure you keep the ground covered with straw. Your ground should never be naked. Should always be covered, whether it's straw, hay, any kind of mulch. Try to not use those rubber mulch stuff, you know. But yeah, there's lots of you know, leaves compost down. So I have an experiment that I started a few years ago. I have a bin at the end of the fall. You know, everybody's good, putting their, you know, stuff out, the leaves and the bags and everything. And I have my neighbors that I know that don't spray. I'll go and get their bags and then put it in this big bin that I have. And it's 5 feet full, okay, big bin. And then it's just, I just made it out of chicken wire. And then when it composts down, by the next season, it's about a foot, maybe a foot and a half. That's all composted down. And you can actually grow potatoes. I've grown potatoes in that bin with just leaves, okay? So, that's a little side note there. And then I want to mention about the flu bomb, because most people know what a flu bomb is. It is basically a clove of garlic, and if you're looking for garlic, try to find the purple one. All right, that's the most flavorful, robust, intense garlic that you can buy the white ones, and you know, whatever, it's all good, okay? But look for the purple one, all right? That's my personal preference. They're all different types. I normally grow, right now my garlic is about, it's above knee high, so it's about a foot and a half high right now. I did like 150 garlic this year. And I usually, you know, grow different types, you know, because they taste different, they look different, whatever. They're all pretty much the same, but they do look and taste a little differently. But the flu bomb is a clove of garlic, 1/4 of a teaspoon, which is this little itty bitty thing, of grated ginger, and you would grate the ginger on this side. All right, so this would make like ginger juice. You would just put it into a bowl when you grate it, and then, you know, and then you squeeze out the water, the liquid. For the flu bomb, it's a clove of garlic grated, the ginger, a drop of eucalyptus oil, pinch of cayenne, just like that, a half a lemon, 1 teaspoon of honey, and you mix that with like a 1/3 of a cup of hot water. It doesn't have to be boiling, because then you're going to ruin the honey, right? And then you just slug it down. That's flu bomb. On the onion can be used raw or cooked. If you're going to use it cooked, you just dry bake it. So you put it in the oven, you know, you cut it in half lengthwise, like that, and then you put it in the pan, and then you bake it, you know, not at a high temperature. You just want to soften it so that it will release the juice that's in the onion, okay? What this is used for is an earache, primarily. You know how kids always have earaches, you know, sometimes adults do too. It's safe, definitely safe, because the enzymes that's released, you drop it into the ear and it draws the inflammation. And so the child is crying, screaming, I got an earache. You do that, and then you take the onion and you take a little piece of cloth, whether it's made from a sheet or pillowcase or whatever, and then you wrap that onion in there, and then the warm onion, once it gets cold, is not as effective. So you take that warm onion and you just lay it on the child's ear, whether you put a bandage around it or you just, you know, put a hat on them, a little beanie or something to keep it in place. that will draw the pus to the surface.
It works.
She's agreeing.
That's it.
Yeah, we have someone testify. Okay, testimony. Without a test, there's no testimony. Okay, so that the cold onion and the warm onion. Okay, you would keep the skin on and the end on. All right, so you would take and cut that skin on, end on, put it in the little baking pan, warm it. You know, let's say 250, 275, 5 to 10 minutes, whatever, just enough to soften it and release the juices. Then it's flat, so you just put something over it so that just it won't be running all over everywhere. And then you just wrap the head, like I said. That is cut halfway through the center. Squeeze a little bit of that warm onion juice onto the affected ear. Then wrap a piece of gauze or an old sheet material around the end to secure it and to avoid burning the earlobe, obviously. Secure it with a piece of plastic wrap. I know you're going to look like a crazy person, all right? But it really works. And then you put a cap over it and allow the warmth to draw out the inflammation and the pus. And once it's cold, you would discard it. You would not reuse this, obviously. But you would reapply another warm onion. If it didn't work right away, you could reapply another one or wait a little bit. Sometimes a child will actually just go to sleep. It feels so good. And when they wake up, the stuff comes out. All right? Keep doing it until the earache is gone. It's also very good for boils. Now, most people don't get boils anymore, but I remember as a kid, I don't know if we were just out in the wilderness all the time getting into stuff we shouldn't be getting into. Oh, I know that was true, but yeah, we used to have boils every once in a great while, not all the time, but if you ever come across that, this is the same treatment you would use for a boil. Now, this young lady is my guinea pig. She's going to come over here and she's going to chop up this onion, and we're going to show you an onion poultice for the bottom of the foot. We're going to talk about poultices and compresses. So this bag is made of cornstarch, but you could use a plastic bag, And so she would cut up the onion. We're going to put the onion into here. I did put one of these, but you don't really need to, as long as it's, doesn't have any holes or anything in it. This is just like non-adherent. You could use some gauze pads. You could make your own little, I have a bag that I use, the poultice bag, we'll call it. You could use felt, cut it to the right size that you want, because we're going to show you several different poultices. We're going to show you potato, and we're going to show you cayenne pepper, and onion. So yeah, you're going to chop this one. Be careful. Now what you should do, let me give you a little Chef Queen cuisine little instruction here. You always want to work on a clean surface, okay? And then cut it in half first and make a flat base. That way it doesn't roll around on you and it's not going to hurt you. And then when you make a flat base with the onion, you can use your hands outside of the knife, okay? Typically, you use your hand as what we call a guard, all right? So you just would cut the onion, okay? After you've cleaned up your mess, of course. And then you go back across this way. Now when you get near your hand, then you use the guard, your hand guard, okay? And you rock the knife. So you don't go bang, bang, bang. If I hear anyone banging that knife, it's going to be trouble, okay? So I rock the knife and I roll it. So that's how I rock and roll, okay? I used to rock and roll a different way. But those days are long gone. Praise the Lord. Okay, so that's how you would cut up an onion, okay? All right, so continue on, and then you're going to put it in your little handy-dandy bag. If you can find the cornstarch bags, it's just better for the environment. It won't. Yeah, put it all in there, baby. Yep. Say it again, someone say?
Cornstarch bags.
Find the bag.
You have to look online. With the poultice bag that I mentioned to you, or box, whatever you keep your, rags in or whatever, you can use felt, flannel. This one here is, here, you can pass this around. Feel that, how, this is 100% cotton. It was a pillowcase. And you know what? It started to get a little hole in the pillowcase. And so, it's done for. You don't want to throw it out, so you can use it for other things. But it's nice and soft, okay? The other thing I use a lot of is sheets. So an old sheet, okay? It's very gentle against the skin, and it protects the skin from whatever you're using for a compress or a poultice. And so that's some of the things that we would use for the poultice. And then she's got this onion. Now normally this would be enough for 2 feet. Okay, but for the sake of this demo, we're just gonna put it all in there. But normally this would be enough for 2 feet. So she would, or he would, whoever would, would put their foot in there, and then, you would just tie up the bag, okay? And then if it were like a man, of course, be a bigger foot or whatever. And then you would wrap it, like with a bandage or gauze or something. And if it's less, yeah, here we go. So if it was less, obviously, because this is enough for 2, this onion, okay? But you would wrap it with the ace bandage, okay? And,
Just
lift up, lift.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to be bossy.
Beautiful.
Just lift up your butt, girl. All right, so that's basically what you would do. And if it was a little smaller amount, they could slip on a sock, and it would keep it in place overnight. So this would be something you'd apply at night, okay? The interesting thing about onion, and the amazing thing about the onion, it is, as I said before, a drawer. It draws the inflammation. Believe it or not, this is going to draw from her lungs. So you've got a head cold, you've got the flu, you've got asthma, you've got pneumonia, whatever you've got, okay? This draws the inflammation from the lungs and breaks up the mucus, and you start spewing that stuff out, okay? And so that keeps it in place, it stops the coughs. It's almost miraculous, it will stop the cough almost immediately. The thing about onion is it will absorb anything. If it's in the kitchen, it'll absorb other odors. If it's in the fridge, you put an onion in there, it's going to absorb anything that it comes in contact with. Next, we're going to look at the humble potato. Okay? With the potato, you peel the potato. It's gentle. It's even gentle enough and good for the eyes. Any, area, down below, wherever, okay? But with the eyes, you've heard of conjunctivitis, right? Pink eye, right? Clogged tear duct. I've had those before. You take this potato compress, and you put it on the eye, and it's very gentle for any of sensitive areas, right? You wouldn't do ginger or onion on the eye, but this you can use. Yeah, so she's gonna grate this.
So even
Now for a
little
baby,
eyes
little
make a
tiny eye, no. For a little baby's eye, you might use this little fine grater, so it's very gentle. The baby's going to sleep, whatever. And you maybe do that. Now for us big people, we can do the bigger side, okay? So she's going to grate it. Now you can actually grate it right onto the poultice. So if you have a lot of these already cut in advance, you get the right size, for what your target is, okay? It's very high in phosphorus and potassium. That's one of the, anti-inflammatory ingredients that's in potato. Now, you can use this for an ingrown toenail, You can use it for a sprained ankle, a sprained wrist. You can use it for splinters. Oh, I got a splinter. Oh, I can't get it out. You're over there trying to do all this stuff and you're aggravating it, pushing it even more in. No, don't do it. You take this and she's going to grate it, okay? Like say it's for the finger. You've got a splinter. You just make a little packet with about, say, yay much in there, right? And then you fold it over. And you make just a little envelope, we'll say, okay? And then you see how the thin side is exposed closest to, and then you put it on the eye, and then you could either, take a little gauze or something and, wrap it around. And you could also use this with, let me see if I have it here. There was a little small round, you know how you can buy those little cosmetic things? The little cotton pad things, right? Well, you could put it on that and then do this and put it on the eye. But that's very gentle. It won't hurt. It will not hurt you at all. And so you can do more. Do the rest of that potato, please, and thank you. So you can use it for a sprained ankle, sprained wrist, sprained arm. Say you step on a rusty nail, any kind of wound like that is become infected and red and inflamed. For example, you would grate this onto, say, a chucks. So you could grate it onto one of these if you wanted to do it that way. Typically, you take a piece of plastic wrap, before you get going over here, sorry, going a little backwards on this one. But, so you take a little piece of plastic wrap, if I can get it off. This is where my assistant normally would help me.
No,
Okay, so you take a piece of plastic wrap, just say about yay big or so, depending on the size of the foot or, the area that you're going to, wrap. And you put the plastic wrap down, then you put your poultice. You can even leave it. Yeah, that's great. You can even leave it on the paper towel and then put it on, either chucks or, the sheet. Okay, so that can go down whenever you're ready. Okay. And just wipe up your mess.
Sorry, Mom.
Girl. You're good. You're good. You're all good.
While you're doing that, can I give you a testimony on the potato?
Yeah.
I was a young mother and I was nursing my child, but I ended up with an impacted wisdom
Up there.
tooth.
We're gonna go.
And the dentist wouldn't take it
This way?
out until the
No, we're
infection,
gonna go over
Oh, we're
there.
going
it
in.
was abscessed until the infection went away.
You good?
And I couldn't take any antibiotics because I was nursing. So what I did is I took the potato, grated it, the raw potato, and put it in my mouth, and I changed it out several times a day. And within a few days, the abscess was gone, and the
Yeah.
dentist checked me and said, "Yep, you're ready to go."
Yep. There's a wonderful doctor. His name is, write this down and check him out. His name is Mammon Wilson. He is what they call an herbal surgeon. He has cured cancer. He travels around the world healing people. He has so many people calling him from all over the world that he can't even keep up with everything, okay?
Is he American?
He is. He's from Kentucky, I believe. But he is amazing. So you see how she has her foot on there, right? And then, we're going to just wrap the plastic wrap up around like that. To keep it in place, you can use some of this, what they call paper tape. Because you want to keep it in place, right? And you could also, like I say, put the sock on over this afterwards. But it doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to be in place. All right, you'll have to lift up. Yeah.
Now, why would I use potato versus onion?
Well, the onion is especially good for the lungs and anything to do with the respiratory, or asthma, sinus trouble, any kind of mucus or any of that stuff. This is if you had a sprain. Actually, we should have put it around the ankle, but this is like for any kind of sprains or inflammation or swelling or redness, anything like that. The potato is a drawer, so it will draw any impurities out of the system. And so we could put that around the ankle or, you know, the wrist if you have a sprained wrist, the, you know, finger or the ingrown toenail, okay? It will work marvelously for all of that. So,
Can you use the onions and potatoes together, or no?
not usually, but I mean, I don't think it would hurt anything, but it's typically, you know, this is really more for inflammation and pain, you know, to draw out like the redness, like ease the pain. You know how like something's inflamed and it's like, oh, it's like an aching tooth. This is very good for that. So, but you wrap this around the infected area for an hour or two and reapply as needed. Doesn't it feel good? Nice and cool, right?
Yeah.
Very cooling. And braided is the best and the gentlest way to apply it. These healing drawers, okay? And do not overuse it. Once the area is fixed, you know, and better, discontinue the use. And of course, it's a one-shot deal. You wouldn't reuse that, of course. But yeah, you can do the same thing, like I say, on the wrist. You just make it like in the, you know, size of your wrist and wrap it around there or your elbow, whatever. And so that's it for the potato. Next, we're going to move on to cayenne pepper, which is of the capsicum family. So cayenne pepper is hot and pungent and earthy. You want between 90 and 120,000 Scoville units. I know that sounds like, what? Well, the guy who discovered how to measure the heat that's in particular types of peppers, his last name was Scoville. And so they call it the Scoville unit. And so some peppers are just very mild and sweet. They really don't even hardly register. But when you get into the cayenne, it's a hot pepper, okay? And it is also a drawer, all right? You can put it on your tongue. It kind of tingles. It doesn't burn. And it will, you can never overdose on it. Like you can't say, oh, I think I put too much. No. That's not going to happen. It is a blood stimulator. It heals the heart. If you have heart condition or someone you know has heart trouble, you know, you start off small, start off slow. Like I say, I'm not advocating anything in place of what your medical doctor would say to you, but this is an alternative healing modality. It's a blood mover, and it thins the blood. It actually will repair the arterial walls. So most heart attacks are caused by damage to the arterial wall, okay? So if you can repair the arterial wall, you're already far ahead of the game, okay? And it will also correct and heal ulcers. So you think, how could something like that, spicy like that, help, you know? It has a lot to do with the internal, like mucous membranes, and the gut flora. To help the gut flora, I would suggest that people eat more plant-based food and more fiber. There's no fiber found in animal products or dairy, so you need to increase your fiber, which will help to increase your gut flora. It's called the microbiome. And your gut is your second brain, okay? And, oh, I wanted to mention about cayenne too, because it will actually help with, everybody seems to have peripheral neuropathy. You know, half the people you talk to, oh, my feet are cold, they're numb, I can't feel nothing, they're tingling. This is a way to bring blood to your extremities. It increases the blood flow, which brings warmth, okay? You notice people that have problems like that, they'll say, oh, my feet are always cold, my hands are always cold. Well, that's from poor circulation. Okay, so it brings blood to the extremities. And after each use, of course, you would discard it, right? And it's a blood stimulator. It actually heals the heart. It strengthens and repairs the arterial walls. And it can actually stop a heart attack. It is said that it is faster than nitroglycerin in stopping a heart attack.
Wow.
And we saw that at church one day. This girl went down, the singer, remember? And we gave her cayenne pepper. I don't know if she was having a heart attack or whatever, but it just wakes everything up, like immediately. And the dosage for that is 1/3 of a teaspoon of cayenne to 1/2 ounce of water. And you just belt it down, all right? You see somebody having a heart attack, you know, these healers, these people that, and the people at church, they know that I carry cayenne pepper with me to church. You know, and you never know when you're gonna need it, right? I mean, if you keep it in your purse, I keep it in my Bible bag, I keep it in my purse.
I'm gonna actually.
Keep it in your car, you know, how they have Narcan and all that stuff. Well, this is good for, you know, for that particular purpose. They even make, and I have some here, cayenne pepper in liquid form. So it's already liquid. So they've got a very hot one and they've got a regular hot cayenne, but this other one is very hot, okay? You can get cayenne pepper in capsule form, so you can take it internally. You can use it externally or internally. I think if you add it to your food, you build up sort of a tolerance for it. It doesn't burn, it never burns, but it kind of tingles a little bit, you know, and it is so beneficial to your blood. It actually moves your blood. It's a blood stimulator, blood mover. And it thins the blood and it dilates the blood vessels and the capillaries. So that's basically what it does, and it repairs the artery walls. So this book here, Curing with Cayenne, by Sam Beiser, that's an amazing book, you know, and I suggest any of you that are interested in these kinds of alternative healing modalities, you know, check out a few of these books. What it does is cayenne is a catalyst. They call it a catalyst. And it works on the plaque that's in the arteries. So, you know, people go, oh, my plaque, you know, I'm going to have a heart attack, right? Well, this is a way to take the little broom and sweep some of the plaque out of the arteries and the blood vessels. So it actually thins the blood and it delivers vital oxygen where it's needed. You know, if you have a heart attack, I mean, you could die, okay, very easily. So, but this can stop a heart attack, as effective as nitroglycerin. And so it thins the blood and dilates the blood vessels, all right? It can stop bleeding. If, say you cut yourself, grab the cayenne, you know, you get cut by a chainsaw or whatever, someone go grab the cayenne. It will stop the bleeding immediately, okay? In any open wound or cut, because it constricts the bleeding when it's externally topical like that. It does improve the hydrochloric acid in your stomach. You know, if you were to put your hand down into your stomach, your hydrochloric acid in your stomach would eat your hand right off. So you want to have a strong, like people, it's a misnomer. People say, oh, I have an acid stomach, you know, I've got GERD, reflux, all this stuff. You know, the hydrochloric acid, you want to have hydrochloric acid in your stomach. You want to. Usually you get GERD and all that stuff from eating way too much acidic food. Sugar's acidic, dairy's acidic, meat's acidic. Those are all very acidic. If you look at the pH chart online, you can do the research yourself and see that what I'm saying is true. It will show you the foods that are high alkaline and high acid foods. So you want to increase, you know, the more fibrous foods basically is what it is. And it's impossible to abuse cayenne pepper. It is actually a first aid, and like I say, it brings blood to the area, and it's a blood mover and a blood cleanser. It can still heal a stomach ulcer. It's great for the peripheral neuropathy. So what you would do is you would drizzle a half a tablespoon of castor oil or olive oil. This would be another poultice that you would make. And so you would basically take some olive oil, like a half a teaspoon, drizzle it on there. I often take a little brush and brush it on. Picture this as the bottom of your foot, the size of the bottom of your foot. You would take enough olive oil, like, I don't know, half a teaspoon or something like that, okay? And you would sprinkle that around, okay? And then you would just, this acts as the glue. This is the only thing that this is doing, is you're using it for glue, we'll say, for the cayenne pepper. And then you would take the cayenne pepper and you'd sprinkle like a half a teaspoon, something like that. Okay, you can either move it around like that or use your finger or whatever. And then you would do the same idea as the poultice, and you put that on the bottom of the foot. Of course, you put the plastic wrap under it and all that stuff, you know, paper towel or however works for you the best. So that helps it to stick. You leave that on overnight and apply it again as needed. You should experience in the morning, I mean, there are people that have absolutely zero feeling in their feet and in their legs, especially their lower extremities. And this will draw the blood, okay? You know, it takes 1 minute for one drop of blood to go from your heart to the foot, back up to the brain, back to the heart. 1 minute for one drop of blood to do that. And if your circulation is bad, it could take much longer than that if it even hits the feet. Okay, that's why you have no feeling in your feet, because there's no circulation. All right, so this is a way to help anyone who's experiencing that kind of difficulty. And so you'd make the poultice. You can make these poultices ahead of time, and you can fold them and put them in a plastic bag in the fridge. Like, say you're making them for your elderly neighbor or grandmother or something. You can make them, and then when they need it, they can just pull it out and use it, okay? So you'd make a compress with that, and then you smooth that material over there, and then you'd use the glad wrap and a sock and put it in place. And the next morning, I mean, after a few treatments of this, I mean, it's miraculous what it does.
What if they're on meds for their heart?
Well, then you have to consult your physician, but you start low. You know, just put a little sprinkling and just see if they get a little bit of tingling or feeling. You know, everyone's on medications. We're also dependent on big pharma, and you know, there's no healing, there's no cures in drugstore, over-the-counter, pharmaceutical, you know, stuff in a bottle. There's nothing there that can really heal you. In my humble opinion, these are my experiences, my humble opinion. And taken in low doses can actually improve blood pressure. It's an anti-inflammatory, and you do have to be careful if you're taking other medications. I'm saying consult your doctor if you have any questions, you know, but avoid high doses of anything, you know. You start low and then you build yourself up, and so that, you know, you can also just use it as a capsule, in capsule form. So this is cayenne and this is charcoal. We're going to talk about charcoal too, but so you can, if you're like leery or whatever, you know, you can take the cayenne in capsule form. It'll work on the blood internally. This is internal, external thing. And or you can also, for impurities in the blood and stuff, you can, or, you know, in the stomach or whatever, you can use a capsule of the charcoal, which is our next thing. We're going to do a charcoal poultice, and this stuff is like super messy. So we're going to have our assistant do this. Okay? Because I don't want to get messy.
Okay.
Now,
You're just a
this is called psyllium husk. It acts like it's like a gel. You know how chia seeds, you add water and it becomes like a pudding, like a gel?
Yeah.
Same idea, psyllium husk is amazing. So you would use equal parts. So let's say you put a tablespoon or 2 of each. Put 2 tablespoons, I guess.
2 of this?
Yeah, 2 of that. And then the charcoal powder is, when I tell you, it is like, woo!
Am I
You
doing
put
the
this
same
on
with
there, you ain't never getting it off, okay?
I'm doing the same as this.
Same as that, baby. And then we're going to add water to this level. Let's not go crazy now.
Right.
Don't go crazy on me, Lisa.
Okay.
Okay, so in there you're going to put some water. Let's say
Sugar.
maybe half of that.
Half of it?
Instead of mixing it in this bowl and stuff going everywhere, okay. And you're gonna maybe, like, as you mix it, you go, oh, I need a little bit more water, okay? So then you close it, no, seal it, girl. That's why it's called Ziploc,
Mm.
all right? Okay, and then say she's just gonna mash it together to mix it. So now it's not messy, the black stuff's on all over the place, and, you know, you can shake it a little if you wanna get into it, you know, you can do that. And so, what you do with this is, you basically are making a poultice for the outside of your skin. So let's say your kid is outside, gets stung by a bee, or you're outside, gets stung by a bee. The thing with charcoal is, again, that it adsorbs. I didn't say absorb, I said adsorbs, okay? So it draws into itself and it neutralizes poisons. It neutralizes poisons and toxins that's in the system, and it actually absorbs 150 times its weight in toxins. So let's say you have, I don't know, some kind of thing going on in your stomach, you got diarrhea, you got upset stomach, all that stuff. You know, you can take the pill. Okay, you wouldn't just take a spoonful of that, okay? 'Cause, you know. So she's making a paste, all right, so keep working it, girl.
Okay.
And so it binds to 29 of 30 of the deadliest chemicals and pesticides known to mankind. You get that? It binds, it goes in there, and it gets it, and it binds to it, and it draws it out, and out the other end it comes. Okay? It can be taken internally or externally in pill form, powder, or capsules, and it's messy, as we said. So you can also mix this with flaxseed, you know, ground flaxseed, or chia seed, or slippery elm. You know slippery elm? It's very slippery, you know, and they take that for the throat. This can be used on a sore eye. It can be used for congested chest or abdomen. It is safe around the eyes. It's just a charcoal. I mean, it's like it absorbs, you know, any impurities or. So it's good for external things like bug bites, stings, spider bites, snake bites.
You can use it on your eye. Is it going to leave a black eye literally?
Not a black eye.
Okay.
Like if you have a sty or a pink eye or conjunctivitis, you can, we're making this and I'm gonna finish explaining what we're gonna do next with that. And then, it's safe to, I mean, yeah, you'd have to go take a shower or wash your face afterwards, I guess. But you would, this is a way to, like, say you have a little speck of something in your eye and you don't wanna rub your eye because that can make it go into your eye even more. So you would use this to help draw it out, just like the potato, this little potato packet. You've got something in your eye, you put that on there, it's gentle soothing, same way as that's gentle soothing, and it will draw whatever's in there out. Yep.
Is it good for the puffy eyes?
Yes. Yep, so is the potato one. So you saw how we made that little packet, right? Very simple. Okay, so safe around the eyes, good for external things like bug bites, snake bites, spider bites, bee bites, wasp bites. You make your poultice, you roll it out flat, okay? So what I do is I make this. Now, mind you, I'm normally out in the garden a lot, and you know, I'm sure that if you got a tick bite and you got that tick out, you put this on there, it's gonna absorb whatever that tick left in there, if anything, okay? So you see how we made a handy dandy little packet, right? Then you freeze it. You can also refrigerate it, but you freeze it, and then when you need it, you cut a little piece out and open it and put it on there.
How long will
That's how
that
you use
last?
it. This will last forever in the freezer.
Forever?
Well, forever's an awful long time. So we're good with that. So everyone understand about the charcoal?
Couple of questions.
Yes?
Oh, okay. So with it, once the charcoal is frozen and you cut it, do you just place it on there? Do you put it on a pad or you just kind of smush it in? Like,
You can just put it right directly onto the bee sting or the whatever sting or bite or whatever that you have, and it will work most effective when it's right next to the skin.
it still stays frozen in the frozen.
Well, it will
state.
eventually thaw out, but it will, you can just take some gauze or something and wrap around it, you know. It'll eventually thaw, but it feels great, nice and cool. You can keep it right in the fridge. And then, of course, you'd get rid of it because it'd be full of toxins once you know it's used. But yeah, that's a very nice way to, a cooling way to, you know, relieve, you know, inflammation and that swelling and stuff like that. So, so you cut off a piece and then you'd unfold it onto the sting. Okay, and then you put it right back in the freezer. Slip it inside of another plastic bag or whatever you're going to use, and away you go. Bentonite clay is another thing. It's very similar to charcoal. That's also another poison drawer. So it draws out, you know, all that junk out of the system. Similar fashion. And so internally, it relieves bloating and gas. It can help with food poisoning, as Jan mentioned, and it reduces oxidative stress. It does extract poisons, and it can even assist with acne. I mean, it really has a lot of possibilities. It's an amazing thing. So you just make that paste, and away you go. Castor oil is something we're going to talk about next. Castor oil is one of my absolute favorite things. So I'm going to start it off with a testimony, my personal testimony about castor oil. I had a ganglion cyst in the palm of my hand. If you don't know what that is, it's like the size of a marble, right? And it can get pretty big. And because I'm a chef and I'm constantly rubbing against this, even my hands have, like, after 45 years, adhered to the form of the knife. And also being a gardener, you know, I've either got a shovel, a rake, a hoe, a spade, or something in my hand. So this hand takes a lot of abuse. And it's irritated. You know, a lot of people get carpal tunnel and all this stuff. But I developed over the years a ganglion cyst here and one there, and I went to the doctor. This was long before I knew about these natural herbal simple home remedies, okay? And so I made myself this little handy dandy. I took a glove. I brought this to show you my little poultice that I put on my hand. So I took a glove and I cut it to fit my hand. So I didn't want to sleep with like a glove on, right? But with this, my fingers are free. And then I fold over the castor oil pack. And then every time I go to use it, I just put another teaspoon or two, depending on what you're using it on. I put another teaspoon of castor oil right into that. Now this is the Jamaican castor oil, not that one. That one's homemade, but this is what they call black castor oil. So you put just about like that much, and it takes 15 or 20 minutes for it to absorb into the flannel or wool or whatever you're using, okay? But once that's absorbed into there, you know, I put it right on here, and then I put the glove on, okay? I was amazed because these things that happen to us, they develop over years. It's not like, oh, I just got that from a couple of weeks ago. I've been chopping for 40 years. And you know, it was so annoying. I would try to go out in the garden and I could barely, you know, do what I had to do out there, and it burned, and it was, you know, very uncomfortable. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll try the castor oil on it. So I did. Within a couple months of doing that application, every night I did it. And sometimes I would leave it on when I go out in the garden because I'd be hoeing and going, right? And, you know, that's what's rubbing against my skin now instead of the metal or the wood or whatever. And so it really worked for me. And then about a year ago, my doctor said to me, my eye doctor, he said, you know, you have the beginning of cataracts. Actually, it was 2 years ago. So I did my research on the castor oil and I started applying. And again, with anything like this, you do a patch test to see if you're allergic. Typically, castor oil is safe on the eyes, but every system is different, every person is different, every skin is different. And I do have several forms of castor oil here. And I would highly suggest that you get it only in glass bottle. There are 2 brands that I use quite a lot, and they're hexane free. This one here is good for the hair, the skin, the nails, and they're all good. I mean, I'm not saying just this one here, I'm just saying that that's an example. I have 2 or 3 brands that I typically buy. One is called Queen of Thrones. One is called Heritage brand. And this one is an organic one from In Essence. In Essence. This one I got recently from a nurse that I work with. And she brought me some back from Jamaica. Some good stuff. Okay? And you don't typically want to use it internally unless you need something to move down there, okay? But typically this is an external thing. Glass bottle only, first cold pressed, hexane free. 1 drop on the eyelid every night before you go to bed. And it just, you know, penetrates through the 5 layers of the epidermis. It targets any kind of tumor, cyst, or anything like that you have in your body. And in this case, it targets the cataracts. And it will break up the cataracts and you won't have to have cataract surgery. So, I tested it. And sure enough, went to the doctor. Oh, you don't have any more sign of cataracts.
Wow.
Okay, cool, thank you. But you have what looks like maybe the beginning of glaucoma. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, they do a test and they measure how much pressure is on the eye. And when this pressure builds up, it can cause this glaucoma to happen. And you can go blind from that, right? So I'm like, wow, you know, I gotta do something. So I did the same thing with the castor oil. I went last month. He said, it's all normal.
Wow.
Your pressure on your eye is back to normal.
That's weird.
And I forgot about this other one. This is also good for skin tags. You know what a skin tag is? It's like a little growth, kind of like I think it's caused from fungus. I'm not really positive on the exact, I think it's different and, it can be from other things in the body, but I had on my eyelid a cyst, not a cyst, but a skin tag, and it was getting big. And this guy at church says to me, you know you have a skin tag on your eyelid? Brother James. Yeah, I know it. I don't like it. I don't know what to do. But I was putting the castor oil on. And then one day, I was actually at an event. I was doing an event for 150 people. And my eye I just rubbed my eye and that skin tag came right off. Just came right off, bled for about 2 seconds, and that was the end of it. So it's really miraculous what castor oil can do. And
Will it work on warts?
I would say yes. Any healing remedies, you want to assure that you're not allergic to anything. You know, we're not saying this is a miracle cure for everything or else everybody'd be using it, but it's a soft, gentle, alternative healing modality that can give you relief from many ailments and, you know, things that we've been talking about. And so if you have sensitive skin, just make sure you do a patch test and always use quality ingredients. Like we talked about, you can make a paste from castor oil and baking soda. So it's 1 tablespoon of castor oil with a teaspoon of baking soda. It can be used in a multiplicity of applications, but like say you want to grow some hair, your hair's thinning. I have thin hair because I wore one of those tall chef hats for years, okay? And it went right around here. And you see I almost always wear a headband because my receding hairline. But the castor oil will grow hair. Let's say you want to grow eyelashes or eyebrows, you know. You can use the castor oil, the 1 drop on the eyelid, and you'll be amazed. You'll have nice, long, lush, you know, eyelashes from that. It will improve certain hair and scalp conditions, like say, you know, flaky, you know, dandruff and all that kind of stuff, dry, flaky skin. And it will make that area less itchy, too, which is a big benefit. And that is something that you would treat 1 time a week. So shampoo your hair, you know, first do that, you know, wherever your dry skin is. I've seen it also work on, you know, what do they call it, dermatitis, psoriasis, itchy skin, you know, and so it brings a more balanced, stronger head of hair. The humble cabbage leaf. Cabbage is also very similar to horseradish, which is good externally and internally. And what you would do with cabbage is, this is especially good for nursing mothers who their milk has just come in, and it, you know, externally reduces swelling and pain. It produces healing by drawing out inflammation. So it's especially good for nursing mothers 2 to 3 days after birth. Your milk comes in, you want to nurse your baby, but it's so painful sometimes, and your breasts become engorged with milk. Isn't it neat how God like made this so it's like right in the shape of, you know.
I was thinking that.
Sorry. Okay, but sorry guys. But here's the thing. They use this in maternity wards around the world, and they put it in the bra so that the mother gets some relief from the pain and the burning and the engorgement. It actually relieves some of that swelling. Okay, so a little lighthearted humor there, okay? And so anyways, it makes it more comfortable for the nursing mother, and I'm sure the baby is happier too. Normally with this cabbage leaf, what you would do is you would take a mallet like this, and you would pound, you know, like a meat mallet, okay? And you would pound this to release the oxidizing enzymes. So you just pound it, you know, like that. And or to make it like easier, I guess, you could even just submerge this into boiling water for like a half a minute, just enough to release the enzymes and soften it. And you got a bad elbow, pain, inflammation, 2 or 3 layers of the cabbage leaf, a tennis elbow. Say you have a knee, like a lot of people have knee problems. I gotta have a knee surgery. I gotta have my shoulder replaced. You know, start doing some of this stuff. Maybe it'll help. You know, it can't hurt. And it's just, it takes a concerted effort, and a lot of people are like, I can't be bothered to do all that stuff. Well, go and have an operation. If that's what you want, that's up to you, you know? But, and red cabbage, ironically, is 10 times more antioxidant effect than green. So, you know, you'd put a couple layers, right, on the elbow. You could put this around a sprained ankle or arm or wrist or whatever. And that actually brings almost instant relief. It contains an enzyme, but it needs to be activated. So you have to either pound it or whatever. And, you know, I want to emphasize that healing begins in the garden, okay? There's a reason why we've been put things, so many green things have been put on this earth. And it's for the healing of the nations. So that's just a little thing like for wrist, elbow, sprained ankles and all that stuff. I also wanted to mention that I meant to mention before about, you know, when you have peripheral neuropathy, which is very predominant nowadays, a lot of people have the cold feet, you know, no circulation or whatever. I want to emphasize, you know, the importance of exercise. The calf muscle. The calf is the second heart. Okay? Your gut is the second brain. The calf is the second heart. Okay? And the calf muscle, if you go out and walk, you know, even if you have to walk in place, at home, up and down the stairs, whatever you got to do, but exercise, get some action going on those legs, because that will increase the circulation and bring warmth naturally. And like I said, 1 drop of blood takes a minute, right? If your calf muscles are in tune, it helps to pump that blood right back up to the heart. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about salt and water. I'm a huge advocate of water. We have a list of different classes that we might be offering. If anyone's interested in like hydrotherapy, salt and water, you know, wilderness survival, we've taught classes on that. The Kitchen Remedies is a good one, but there's one that I do that's called Blue Zone Lifestyle and Cooking. So the blue zones, if you don't know what they are, there are 5 different areas in the world, and they're looking at possibly 6 now, where people live to be in their hundreds. And they don't get sick. They are so healthy, but they follow certain basic health principles. They stay active. They socialize. They, a lot of them have faith, so they exercise their principles of faith. They get enough rest. They exercise. They drink plenty of water. You know, we're drinking so much stuff and the body don't even know what to do with it, right? Nutrition is key, because I've been, you know, certified in nutrition for 40 some years, and I see, like, I'll be 72 this year. Thank God I don't take any medications. I have no ailments or, you know, any kind of diseases or illnesses, and I thank God for that. But, you know, living by these principles has helped me a lot. And I hope that it helps you too, and I hope that you are very aware of how necessary it is to drink clean water. When you drink water from a tap, you're drinking fluoride and chlorine. Fluoride is so highly promoted. I mean, they want you to take fluoride, this toothpaste that's like super concentrated fluoride, right? Do you know what fluoride does to the pineal gland? It calcifies it. It turns the pineal gland to stone. And the pineal gland is the spiritual center of the brain. It's a little walnut-shaped little organ in the center of the brain, and it is, they want to deactivate it, okay, because they don't want people to be spiritual, okay? But I am here to say that fluoride is a killer, okay? So if you can either get a Berkey water filtration system or filter your water somehow so that you're not drinking chlorine and fluoride and the 3,000 other chemicals that's probably in it. Filter it out, and it has so many chemicals. You don't want to take that into your body. Okay? They recommend half your body weight in ounces. So if you're 100 pounds, that's 50 ounces of water. Okay? Sounds like a lot, but you sip it. And I'm going to give you one of the best secrets that I ever learned. This is what's called SOL. S-O-L. SOL means, do you know what that means? Sun. Okay? So, SOL is a water that you make from mineral salt. Okay? I've been using mostly Baja Gold mineral salt. Contains all the essential minerals in your body. Isn't it fascinating how God made these bodies so that all the minerals that's in the earth, providing that Big Agri has not stripped them out before they grow your food. But you're growing your own food, you're amending the soil, you're adding these things back into the soil. This body that you have contains all of those minerals that are in the soil. Isn't that fascinating? And it's the same way with water. When you have, like, say you have a heart attack or a stroke or something, they slap you in the back of the ambulance. What's the first thing they do? They put you on a 6,000 milligram IV drip of salt water. Saline is salt water. When they tell you don't, take salt, be careful. Don't take the blue with the little girl with the umbrella, the round box.
Right.
Don't touch that stuff. It constricts the blood vessels. It will not allow the blood to flow through the blood vessels. But these types of salt actually carry minerals into the nucleus of the cell, which allows the water to infiltrate the nucleus of the cell and hydrate the cell. And you have trillions of cells in your body, okay? This is a particular type of salt that's grown on the coast of California in the Sea of Cortez. They have these estuaries, I believe they're called, and they hand harvest the salt. And this salt will deliver those minerals to your body. What my teacher, Barbara O'Neill, taught me is what I do is I have, next to my bed, I have a salt cellar. And you can keep one in your bathroom, in your dining room, in your kitchen, a little salt cellar with this type of salt. She recommends every glass of water that you drink, you take that much salt, 2 or 3 little grains, put it under your tongue, let it dissolve under your tongue. What it does is it delivers those sublingually into your bloodstream. Oh, and it tastes so good. It tastes like the ocean. And it will, once you may have to crunch it up or whatever and swallow it and stuff, but it's already going into the bloodstream, all right? Then you take your water and you drink it and it goes through your system. And you are getting the minerals that you need. Add it in moderation. I'm not saying anyone with heart problems should do anything I'm telling them about, but I am telling you that a lot of our ailments are caused from mineral deficiency. And if you're not getting the minerals in the food, you better make sure you're eating good, healthy, fresh, clean, wonderful food, okay? This is a way to take the essence of the natural minerals and get them into your body. I didn't mention about vinegar and cleaning. I wanted to make sure you know this, because most people do not know this. But you know how you have black mold? I think we started to talk about that earlier, about the mold. I got mold in my basement, I got mold here. First of all, get a dehumidifier. We empty our dehumidifier, and we have a relatively new house, okay? We empty the dehumidifier every single day, and it's full of 2 gallons, 3 gallons of water that's drawn out of the air, okay? If you have moisture and mold in your basement, it's coming up through the vents and the whatever, okay? If you have to clean something that has mold, you take vinegar and you spray it. You could just either spray it straight, or if you want to make a vinegar water, I do both. But we don't have any mold because of the dehumidifier. Well, we used to smell slight moldy, and that's what it was happening from. Because, you got the concrete floor, which is porous, and things come up through, or whatever. So anyways, you take, instead of bleach, because everybody's like, oh, I've got to spray some bleach on there. You know what happens when you spray bleach on mold, mildew, and fungus? It creates an instant toxic, poisonous gas. And you're smelling it in. So you take the vinegar, spray it all over the area, and then leave. Come back like, I don't know, half an hour later when everything's settled down, because you don't want to breathe in those mold spores, right? And then you take a cloth of vinegar, water, or soapy, whatever, and wipe it down, and then spray it again, and then run like the dickens. And that will kill the mold spores. Yep. That was one of the best things I learned a few years ago. I was like, wow, this really works. So it will kill mold, mildew, and fungus. And so, keep like a little sprayer around. I know a lot of people that are suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. And I studied under this doctor. His name's Dr. Dale Bredesen in California. And he taught me a healing modality that, Big Pharma doesn't want you to know this, I'm telling you, but a way to prevent, and I'm not going to say cure, but help the symptoms of Alzheimer's and dementia. It's called MCT oil. MCT oil is a medium chain triglyceride. Triglycerides are fats, okay? And this MCT oil is a derivative of coconut oil. So coconut oil, you should be cooking with it. It's very, very good for you in so many ways. But this MCT oil, they did a lot of tests, double-blind studies and all this stuff on people with Alzheimer's. They come in, they do these tests, they X-ray the brain. The brain looks like a skeleton. It's supposed to look like a cauliflower because the brain is like 80% fat and the rest of it's water. And so if they take you in for all these tests and they do those X-rays, and then they say, oh, this guy's got Alzheimer's really bad. There's no fatty tissue in his brain, and then he can't take and draw the face of a clock, and the hands are all over the place, and 12 is here and 1 is there and whatever. And after the treatments with the MCT oil, every day, they started this particular one, this doctor, her husband got really bad Alzheimer's, so she signed him up for this double-blind study. And they took a tablespoon of MCT oil in the morning, blend it in your, smoothie, put it in your oatmeal, drink it in your coffee, however you can get it into you, okay? Tablespoon in the morning, and then at night, tablespoon. And they increased it over time, after a month or two, because it will kind of give you diarrhea a little bit. It'll make things move around, okay? Because you're putting an oil into, I just take and slug it back, just like a shot, or a tablespoon or whatever. And so these medium chain triglycerides, they add fat to the brain. The brain operates on ketones as opposed to glucose, okay? And so these ketones are key in, your memory processes, okay? So they increased it over time. Over the study, I don't know how long it took, I forget all the total details, but after a while, this guy could draw the face of a clock. So she took her husband to this study, and they found that using the MCT oil, the coconut oil, it didn't reverse it totally, but he got improved incredibly. by the use of the MCT oil. So like I say, I'm no doctor. I have studied for years, you know, to learn the things that I've learned, and I'm thankful and grateful to be able to share it and to hopefully make a difference in the lives of those that I'm, you know, able to teach a little bit too. I'm just going to end this with a little verse from Psalms 104, verse 14. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle and the herbs for the service of man, to bring forth food out of the earth. It's God's medical bag. So, yeah, there's a lot to learn, and I love to share it.
Well, thank you so much.
Before we go, again, we want to thank Chef Queen for her time and her energy. We want to make sure that you all, we have a lot more programs that we want to do for you all, the community, Talent area, Vernon. We also want to thank Terry Lynn Rogers, who allowed us to use the space. She runs the VCN, correct?
Vernon Community Network.
Vernon Community Network, and is the Justice of the Peace.
Yes.
So some of you may already know her, but we appreciate her so much for giving us this space to use, and it's a blessing for us. It's a blessing, and hopefully we could collaborate some more. So, and also the Community Voice Channel. Thank you for
Let us know when it
I
might
don't
be
think that's
airing.
on our board.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
All right.
let you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
And also all of our chat members, you see them back here behind the scenes with blue shirts.
And our guinea pig.
Our guinea pig, Lisa. They may be quiet, but they're very essential to what we're doing here.
So
All right, so thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Name.
Thank you all for coming.